This conference will now be recorded.
But it's crazy what's going on, you know?
All right, well, we're gonna call the order,
Can change.
And how we have to.
we're gonna call the order, Eileen.
Call Eileen.
We're already in trouble.
Some things are changing.
It's 6:03 PM on December 30th, and we have all three board members present here at Town Hall. The first order of business is the Lombardo property. So we have the environmental report and that we got on last week, and we have the deed and the charitable donation agreement.
I got a question about, when you read the cover letter, that the consultant recommended a full phase one ESA to be performed on behalf of the town prior to taking ownership of the land.
Which is particularly interesting, seeing as they go on to say that their concerns are de minimis.
Well, they say that at the end.
I know, but I find that disjunction interesting.
It's like rolling the dice.
I figured it was covered ourselves, because there are a couple of, the biggest question marks was there was a couple of oil pipes, which Dean, your brother, pointed out are because the oil tanks were above ground, not below ground.
All above ground,
And there was foundations that are left, which you can plainly see walking over the property.
Yep.
There were two other.
Well, they have a map in their document that shows where all the different foundations were, where the dumpster was and stuff like that. The question they raised further back is,
Septic systems.
septic systems, subsurface may influence the planned use, but that's about the planned use. It didn't say it was like environmental disaster. Lines of similar type and materials of oil feed lines were observed from some of the former building foundations during the Renaissance. But they don't say, I don't know if it's coming, you don't know where, it sort of leaves me with the impression it's coming up out of the ground, where Dean's memo said that they were all in the houses or the buildings.
They were all actually exterior.
They were exterior. Because it
That's why
says,
the pipes are,
because it says possible
Went
resistance.
probably from the exterior tank into the basement where the
Right.
furnace was, presumably. So I think they see the pipes, it's not clear what was carried in them or whether the pipes were emptied when everything else was carted off. And of course, pipes could theoretically have leaked during their use.
So it doesn't say if the pipes are capped. If they're capped, it would be different than just freestanding there, for years around.
That said, so was the the wells and the holes that are in the property, which we're aware of, the foundations and the pipes. Septic pipes, was that also?
Well, he had mentioned the septic pipes, but
I mean,
I mean,
not clear what.
my understanding, most of the septic field was newer.
Mhm.
than
Yeah.
So I was.
There's
told
two
by-
fields actually.
Yeah,
Right, there's
Dean
One
said
that was
one never,
temporarily abandoned and one that was active.
yeah.
And the abandoned one could be reignited and up to 60 bedrooms for that thing. It's a gigantic system.
It's huge.
Yeah, there's a room underground. You can actually climb down with a ladder, and walk up along a metal catway down there. It's fascinating.
so the way that
And yes.
the way that I took it was, we might not be able to put parking on top of a part of the system, or, dig into the ground, which doesn't seem like something that we would do based on the conditions.
Yeah, depending how we do it, some of the foundations, in my opinion, would have to be removed.
I
Or
think-
filled in.
Yeah, or filled in.
Filled in.
The
I think-
holes might need to be filled in, I think the foundations would probably need to be removed. But even so, we knew that there would be the need to probably apply for grants for open space to deal with the remainder of the buildings and other issues. And I'm not gonna downplay it, I'm sure it'll be several $100,000 to make that property. Well, if we're digging up all those foundations and maybe filling in the holes might not be that expensive, but digging up the foundations could be.
They're block foundations,
But how deep do they go?
48 inches down to the footing.
Well, not that bad.
Yeah.
I would figured it was better to estimate it up than down.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, there's no need to do it emergently, we can apply for grants and do it as we can. We don't have a clear plan yet for the use of that property, but you have that, look, they didn't for French Park either when the land was gifted, right? What's there now, as extensive as it is, happened over a long period of time and a great deal of effort and planning. You can't do anything without a piece of property. So the question is, are the de minimis risks sufficient to warrant our saying no?
Anybody's guess is good as.
I know.
I think it's a risk worth taking. And after the environmental review came back, it basically addressed issues that we were already aware of, right? Nothing came up out of the,
Well, yeah,
we knew about the wells, we knew about the septic system, and we knew about the foundations. And there's some oil feed pipes. But I think it's also we're not committing money towards it. I think like Susan says, this can be done over years as grants are available and as the town wants to spend money on it. There's no.
no, we don't have to.
And we may wanna make a plan before we do any of that, which, fair. I agree, I think that the outlined concerns are not sufficient to warrant my wanting to back out of it.
Okay. Fair enough.
I could end up being wrong, but that's my gut feeling. Based on the information available.
Anything else?
I wanna ask.
Is there a motion to approve the deed and the donation agreement?
Do we wanna ask for?
Yeah, is there any public comment before we
No.
accept the property?
Oh, damn.
Alright,
Enough time.
is there a motion to approve the deed and the charitable donation agreement?
I motion we approve the charitable donation agreement and accept the property.
I'll second it,
Alright, I'll call a vote,
Yes.
yes,
yes.
alright, it's unanimous.
I'd like to introduce Ashley T. Van Dusen, who has come here to help us as as a notary.
Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Oh,
Is everything the same?
Yes.
Yes, that way everyone will know who to blame.
That would be lovely.
That would be lovely, yes, thank you. Couldn't agree more. I told you did that, so there you go. You've done well creating a signature for yourself. That's almost as unreadable as mine.
you're looking for a license.
Um,
You want
I mean,
mine?
I know,
Well, it's right
so
here.
I can-
It's right here. Well, you should sign the letter for it. I'm just waiting for you guys. I haven't been able to come in the past. But I've been here now, so it's good.
So I think you have to sign that one, right? So that has to sign.
Okay, there you go.
Blue and black.
Well, so.
So I've been in touch with your brother a bit, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
But we'll do the form, the 8283.
Yeah.
In the coming weeks or months.
We're not in any rush.
It's a charitable donation form.
That really doesn't have to be completed. Or, yeah, something like that. That was really for apply for extension.
Yeah.
Cutting us right down to the end of the year.
Just saying.
You're kidding.
Say, get that deduction.
Did Dean say you're doing another one in the?
You know what I mean?
Coming down to the wire.
Yeah, that one's far more complicated.
Someday they'll have
Because it's going to a charitable organization.
I should be rich.
But in Rhode Island, I guess you have to have, I don't even know the complications behind it. It's ridiculous. And then the board doesn't meet very often. So then it's hard to get every single member together because it has to be unanimous vote. Because it's far more complicated.
Is a big deal. Because it was new.
It is. But they own twice as much property adjacent to this. So it's
It's a great color.
a win-win for them, and they, you think that they want to do it quickly. But, whatever.
They're trying to back it up a lot. All black.
Yes.
Oh, believe me, I know. I deal with it on a daily basis.
What do you do?
It's never fun. I'm in the television business.
I'm just gonna make a copy of that.
Please, a copy of both.
Yes. What's that?
Actually, could you make two copies of each?
Sure.
Yeah, I have copies with me.
I need you to sign, okay, you need to sign it. Can I get a phone number for you?
914-841-8222. An email.
I don't.
What are you gonna use it for? Are you gonna date him?
No, I'm not, but if I were to get audited, they want me to prove that I can get this.
I'll give you my professional.
Don't let them bully you.
So, Barbara
Get that in.
Jeffrey. 1129. And G. Typically in spam.
Okay, at least I'm not asking for. You were all.
Whatever. Yeah. But I just, I do, we just know.
Amazing thing.
So you did this in years.
What's that?
When they were, who's on, see.
I think I'm done.
We'll get those things.
Nice meeting you. Have good news.
Oh, was that her, the what you? Daddy's on TV. How old is he?
I will.
Depending on what you're gonna do.
Single stud.
Crazy.
Crazy single stud.
Yeah.
Barbara Asher, am I, you know, like, I've been in a house in years.
Yeah, I walked it, yeah.
He's our,
Pretty level.
he, you know, it's funny, I lived next to him, I moved out now when you had that house, so I went to live next to him.
There was a beach.
And, you know, we do, we chatted a lot, and it was weird, cause he told me, and I was so shocked, I went and somebody said,
Yeah, the way-
nobody, I don't know what,
They
you know,
had
and I'm
a
not
very
really
large
gossip,
beach there.
but he didn't say don't say anything.
And they
He
had
probably thought we're not-
cabanas out there and they had all kinds of really neat
I
stuff.
was like, don't worry about it.
And then
So
the
when my
beach
boss
is
came
already
out-
got overgrown.
So,
Most of it was
but, you know,
gone except for a little bit on the left
I got
side,
wind
which I kept
engineering,
doing for several years just for my kids when they were little.
Yeah. He
And
really
then I
wanted
just
to do the whole
decided not
historical
wanted to
thing,
do
or
it because I
Right here?
had
Yeah.
so
Diane's
I just
Trail.
didn't want to-
and I said something we could do in the spring,
And
so,
then the buildings just got really
so Wendy's gonna tape it
They were
now,
all rental.
and then he'll be able to, you know, then they can do the footage in the
I was
spring.
pretty much
And I was like,
taking
Bob, that's easy.
4 hours there
Yeah, he said,
every day
"You're on the right way."
over there.
But he's gonna do the taping, and, you know, he's still going to the dump, and he'll take help, you know? He made some food that he insisted on, like, bringing back the containers, and I'm like, I don't just, you know?
We had
This whole thing.
several.
Right, exactly, I was like, you know, so what do you want back in every day? So, Steve, you know? I mean, it's crazy. Sick, yeah.
I mean, where is it in town where you can have
And now the
new
hard
beach
dedication.
and all, everything? Just
It's
packed in the hot summer day over here. You know, you got that busy street there. All right.
She's
Nice to
good
meet you
though.
guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good New Year. You too.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll see if we wanna say thank you in 15 years.
I think in order to address people who are present, it probably makes sense to jump right to fire department staffing. So if Chris and Sean wanna come up to the table or sit wherever please, I've gotta recuse myself. Down in the fire department. Staff.
Sit on the other side of the table. And you just can't vote, right?
Recusing yourself requires you to not deliberate.
Listen, it depends, not deliberate, well, you're right, not just not open your mouth like say anything, but you can listen.
Chris has got hand out with
Oh my God, I'm a
nuts and bolts to it.
Give an extra one.
Thank
Oh, yeah.
She can have that one.
We can make a copy after, but.
Make a copy. Yeah, I take a picture. Oh, you get it? Thank you. Audrey? Oh, you know that. My side chick.
Anybody else?
Oh, we. From the fire department?
No.
Oh, well, trying to see what goes on in Monterey? Sometimes. We're all trying to figure that out.
Thank you for,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does, and thank you for the breakout. I know you can't comment on anyone who's seen them, okay. So, essentially, just to fill anybody in who is interested, the issue has arisen that we were always really struggling to meet the needs of the daytime calls, which are approximately half of the calls. We had 4 volunteer firefighters that were regularly in Monterey and generally available for calls. And one of them has now been sidelined with a very serious illness. So we're down to 3 with some other people that sometimes fill in and we're kind of managing. But the fire chief and the deputy fire chief feel that the best course of action is to expedite the original plan, which was to move forward with a partially full, with some full-time fire department staff as of the next fiscal year, but to move that forward in order to ensure we can staff the daytime calls. And after consultation, talking about it with the town administrator and among the select board last week, and some conversations with at least some members of the finance committee, it seems like that may well be a pretty good way to go. I reached out to Donna, town council, to make sure that, to see if it was a requirement of either state or federal law that we advertise the position if we're going to create a full-time position, and the answer is no, unless there is a town policy that says we need to. I was not able to find any policies that have been created while I was on the board or that pre-existed me that basically require advertising. I don't know, did you have a chance to look at that, Frank?
The one.
To see if there were any policies?
No,
that
I
we
didn't
had?
look at it.
I looked, cursed through it, I didn't find anything.
So we don't think we have any legal requirement to advertise. And I floated the idea with the fire chief and the deputy fire chief that we consider calling them interim, since we are now creating a full-time position that didn't exist. I don't want there to be any question about us pushing something through town that wasn't approved at town meeting. In talking with Eileen, how did you phrase it? That we're using a very unfortunate occurrence that pushed our timeline forward as an opportunity to make a choice now to make sure that we have continued adequate coverage for the remainder of the fiscal year. And that this is a way to sort of trial and see how that works out. I have every confidence it will work out, because I don't see why it wouldn't. But it will result in about, I'm gonna round somewhere between 20 and 30K shortfall past the existing fire department budget for FY '24. But our preliminary estimates are that we would be able to find those monies in other budget lines at the end of the year, during the last part of the year, where we can transfer from one budget line to another. The worst case scenario would be that we'd have to either do it during town meeting or as a special town meeting, perhaps attached to the town meeting, which we've done before, to transfer free cash to fill that, but I think it's unlikely we need to do that. So, Eileen?
Do your numbers include the employer mandated expenses, or just because there's more expenses than is shown here?
They would, but as, based on our calculations of employer mandated expenses, they won't actually exist until July for reasons.
Well, a few of them,
We have to-
will.
You would have to offer.
Unemployment, disability, social security will.
We don't pay social
Oh, we don't
security.
pay so,
Yeah.
well, even for full-time?
No, we don't pay social security at all.
Because they pay into retirement system.
Well, that's what I mean, the retirement fund,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
But they pay that 100%, we don't pay that.
Okay, good. But I'm just saying those expenses should, I just wanna make sure if we
No, I
do
know,
it,
that's
we
why I
include
estimated
everything.
up,
And I understand the medical choice, but I think we also need to, and I'm estimating, Roger, those expenses at like 15% above the number.
For,
Medical,
And workers' comp.
DUI, workers' comp,
I have to look at that.
so I would just make sure we have the gross number
Yeah.
available when we make a decision so that we can budget it correctly.
So I would recommend that, given that we do not have to, we don't advertise at this time. And we call it interim, and if we believe that the right thing to do is to open that, although it's a whole nother discussion. The only reason I would put it forward at all would be that we did do that with the police chief. And we had reasons at the time. But that could wait until the position being finalized and or, yeah, the position being finalized at town meeting and then going forward from there, we can have another conversation about that. So, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I apologize, I'm behind, so bear with me. So I got questions, it's not, I'm evaluating. So what we're looking to do is have an interim with you two covering these shifts that are outlined here, right?
Plus, some per diem firefighters
Right.
for the weekend.
Okay. Just out of educating me, what do the other communities, the other municipalities look like around here? Are they doing something similar, or are we doing, I mean, you guys have always been very progressive,
Right.
but how do we compare to other communities at this point? I mean, it's not, I'm not evaluating, I'm
Yeah.
trying to learn, anticipate questions I'll get.
So Great Barrington has some paid staffing.
Right, I understand, but they're,
New Marlboro has an EMT daytime staff.
Firefighter EMT, 40 hours a week.
So it's a daytime weekday.
Yes. Otis has their staff, their
the
ambulance,
staff, right,
daytimes.
And they're working towards
Giving that back to the
firefighter.
town, right?
Yeah, there's a whole thing going on, and the goal is to have firefighter EMTs when they're done.
Okay. Okay. So we have this interim, and between now and when we complete the budget, okay, is this, we want to extend this for the full year, this becomes part of our town, is that?
Yeah, we've been working on a proposal
Right.
for July 1.
Okay. So that would make you two full-time employees of the town, right?
Correct.
And we would have a job description, and we'd have to go through the rigmaroles, the trainings and the things that, that we do, that we don't want to do, that we do. Because we have to do. Okay. So have you figured out, have we looked at what the annual cost would be, like starting in July in a fiscal year?
Yeah, we did work up those numbers. I think they were preliminary set of numbers, but we're hoping to finalize them for the budget cycle.
But a ballpark, Frank, sorry,
Yeah, I mean,
260, 250?
but
Do you remember?
that gets us you two and this cover for the EMT and the firefighter and you guys up there, right?
Do you guys remember that number offhand, Chris?
I don't know.
I'm embarrassed that I didn't bring that piece of
Yeah.
paper.
I just took the 22 weeks of 4 and times it by 52 and added the 15%, which might be an overestimate to the benefits, and came up with 262 for an annualized number. So I'd say 250.
It's somewhere right there.
Yeah, that's what
It's funny,
yeah, once we
but
get the
the
final
I mean, we
number.
can work through
I
that.
just want Frank to have a
And
ballpark.
at that point, the health benefits may have to get.
Well, that's why I put 15%.
Was it the same staffing that you guys were thinking for starting in July with the two of you plus the daytime paramedic EMT? Or was there, I'm trying to remember what exactly the precise thing.
This kind of just took, maybe.
I know, I
but it
wasn't
just
sure
took
that they were
everything
the
and
same,
just-
right,
just-
yeah.
This is
So we were
confederate.
originally proposing to one officer, 2 of us plus hired the captain to be on 24/7. So we do a 48-96 shift. So we get the station for 48 hours. So we get some daytime staffing, make sure things are happening. Some oversight over the shift stuff that's happening at night with the volunteer guys. And then we're proposing a 3-year plan
Mhm,
to ultimately end up with 3 people on shift 24/7.
mhm. Would they be EMT qualified?
Yeah. So our goal would be, so this year would be us, this coming, would be us plus hopefully hiring a firefighter paramedic.
Mhm,
And then year 2 would be hiring just EMT basics.
mhm,
And then year 3, hiring 3 paramedics,
Mhm.
firefighter paramedics.
So
It
there
takes-
was always
it takes-
one on shift.
So there's always one paramedic on shift with an EMT basic on shift. Takes it's a process to get there,
Yeah.
to be licensed to operate as a paramedic or even at EMT basic level, so. So that was our original proposal.
How does this work with mutual aid now that we would be, you know, I mean, I gotta ask, I mean, are you gonna
No,
work
you
the
do.
revenue to offset some of this expense? And I really, you know, someone's gotta ask the question and, you know.
So unfortunately, the revenue, you're not gonna get any revenue out of mutual aid stuff.
Mhm.
But what you can do, is like us, even at year 3 of getting 3 people on 24/7, that's not enough staffing.
Mhm.
No, we can't afford to staff what we really need. But the goal would be for Otis to get 3 on 24/7 and hopefully get New Marlboro to get up.
Mhm.
So we can create some automatic mutual aid. So by getting all the towns working together, then we can get a sufficient amount of staff.
Mhm.
But as far as sending Otis a bill, no, that's,
It's not realistic.
no.
Mhm.
Just out of
Because
curiosity,
we need them
Right.
equally as much as
Right.
us.
how many full-time positions does Barrington have? Curious. Because I know they're,
Far fewer than they should.
that's the impression I had, which is why I was
I
asking the
believe
question.
the former chief told me they should, the town their size should have 8 or 9, I believe, at least. And that seems low as far as,
Sounds low to me.
because they don't have,
On at one time? Just in general.
that's a good question. It's possible it was that many, but.
Maybe not per
it's-
shift.
Yeah,
Before.
but
Yeah.
they're only at 4 right now.
4 total.
4.5.
4
yeah.
plus the chief.
But as you've said, they've been having trouble actually,
It's driver
Yeah,
only in the
calls.
fire truck and
right?
some days it's not getting out because they're on another call. It's a dismal, very dismal sight in the Berkshires for firefighting EMS
Right.
service right now.
Everybody's competing for the same people too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to say?
Can I ask a follow-up question to Frank? I like this idea of looking out over the years and what it would be, but what I'm concerned about is that while we go that way, we detail a process, because look how long it took us to get a lease. So like, who exactly would head that? Would it be the select board? Would it be the fire department? You know, you guys will now be town employees, that carries a different, it carries something different than being a private fire department. So I think we should work out, maybe not here, but that small little working group could work out some of the details, you know, about where we're going, because those things in the long run, because that's what I hear the buzz, that, you know, the other departments aren't staffing so much because they know Monterey is, and they think we're the big fish with our money. So I'm very scared about that we might actually be having a reverse impact in the other towns stepping up, with us stepping up.
Well, if
So
we don't step up, they're not gonna step up for
I
us.
didn't say we should, I didn't say we shouldn't,
Well,
Sean,
I-
and I didn't say that, I just think that we need to have those conversations. This is what we're doing, and I mean, I think that they need to be formalized and actually an ongoing dialogue and actually review. And, you know, I don't know if that should be left to the department level or the select board level or a committee level, but I think that we should detail that now, because you know, I think that you guys are gonna be very busy, and like stuff like that always is like, oh, that'll be next week, and then it'll be like a year in, you know? So I just wanna make sure we have a plan for that.
This stuff is it's very deep
Yeah,
and we're struggling to get it figured out. And these other guys, other towns, I don't know if they're trying, but at some point they're gonna get their full-time help in line.
Yeah.
They have to, because there are no more volunteers.
I feel
Right,
like there's
there's
more
no-
movement in the last few months, started with Otis, and it
Otis,
seems like it's rolling along now.
This whole thing is just crashing and burning just right in front of our face.
right, and it's kind of what we did with some of the van services and other things, you know, like combining with the other towns when we had the school board vote, really talking. So it's just about really having those honest conversations, so we can each say, well, this is what the other town's doing, and then each one feels better about that. It gives them more support. Monterey's doing it, we're doing it at their town meeting. So I just think we need a process for that.
Mhm.
So I'm not entirely sure what the next step is, other than Roger and I are gonna meet tomorrow and pull together some job descriptions that we're gonna choose a couple we think are decent, pass them on to you guys for feedback. so that we have that piece in place.
We got,
Well, there's somewhere we gotta talk about, how do we talk about this with the residents?
Mm.
Because there are a lot of rumors floating around and, I've kept my mouth shut because I don't have any information to give them, because you say one thing and it's wrong, we'll remember it for life. So, there needs to be a conversation on how we go about. There's two parts in my opinion. One is the severity of the problem, okay? Two is, one way I look at it is, in this year alone, I talked to Don Clausen, we had $19 million in work permits this year, which is about, he's estimated, I guess, 7 to 9 million that was normal.
Yeah, that's so.
So I think the people who are making this kind of investment in the community do want EMS service, and they want their property to be protected if something should happen. So there's gotta be a way that we start informing people on how to do it, because, the Monterey News, you got the Google group, which I tend to stay off of at all costs. Yeah.
So
But
up for drafting
I mean,
something.
when you sit back and you look at the numbers, they're big, but I mean, I don't know how else you get around it. I mean, that's, it's like buying a fire truck,
and when you actually work the numbers down to your actual impact on your taxes, it's a change, but it's not huge. It's not like looking at the end number of what it's gonna cost for payroll. So when you actually work that down to what it's actually gonna impact your wallet and my wallet.
Well, you can figure
it's a
that
lot
out.
cheaper.
John has a formula. For
Yeah.
I think every 1,000 is 7 cents.
Every 5,000 is a penny.
A penny.
Yeah,
I've got
I
that
wrote
posted
it
my
down, he has a
office.
number.
I still don't understand it.
That's, too, I
It's
think,
a round number.
it's opinion, people might not agree with it. We took from free cash one year to reduce our taxes and did stuff like that, and then we came out and said, well, there's no free cash, we gotta go back to the farm. So that's fine, people voice their concerns, I'm not bad at all, I mean, but I think that not only the fire department, but the select board and other people need to know what is going on, what is the information that is out there, because, it's fine to ask critics, it doesn't bother me, I've been criticized all my life, but I wanna make sure I have the right information to get them to.
Yeah, we've discussed about how we're gonna approach it on the public side of getting the correct information out.
And I think I'm gonna start by writing an article for the January Monterey News,
Yeah.
sort of talking about what expedited the situation. And I think it should also sketch out what the long range plan
I
is.
think
I
it should.
try to always balance it because I want people to know, but I want it to be fresh in their minds with the data when it comes towards meetings. So I would expect that in time for the April issue, I would address it again. I might have a third one in between, just talking about the state of what's going on with the other towns and updating that and talking about the need. And at that point, hopefully, the EMS group that's working on the regional Berkshire EMS, which we're part of, well, they'll actually have a meeting, so I might be able to get better information about their interesting idea about keeping emergency medical separate from the fire department. I don't hold with, but I'm willing to listen to their thoughts, to add to that conversation, but I agree, and it's definitely been something we've been talking about. And if you have other thoughts for how to get that out there, I mean, it might be that we need to hold a public meeting at some point before the town meeting to let people voice their concerns, so we can make sure all those concerns, we have good answers for all their issues. Eileen?
So, now what's my train of thought? I don't remember getting a fundraising letter from the fire department this year, did I?
No.
So here's an idea. I think that we as a group, the town administrative select board and the finance committee should definitely agree on the bullets about what we're saying so that we all have the same information and then we each write them in different ways. I think it's a really good year beginning fundraising letter to put out there, and I can help you write that. I think that would be a really good way to get that across, because I love that data point that I can't believe we have $10 million more in fees, but you know what I'm saying, that people are investing and they need to know that they're safe. I think that the finance committee has been very successful, that's how we found Roger, at like having a briefing. That's where we first met Roger, and he got on the finance committee, so we can include a big part of the fire department briefing at that finance committee briefing on the budget, Susan, since we already do that. Maybe the select board wants to come, and we can schedule a little more time for that.
I was thinking it might be good to just have a briefing specifically about the future of the fire department, if people wanted it, because I wouldn't wanna see the general briefing hijack, which it could absolutely.
I think it is the budget story. I mean, between the schools, which didn't go up that much, but the fire, and then some of the new expenses like the Lake Garfield Working Group, the fire department is the story of the budget, so it will dominate it anyway. And I think it's really important to look at in perspective. And I think that when we start having these, one-offs, we're gonna be having them forever. So, you know what I mean? Like, we could have, we could have had one on the land, on this, on that.
Yeah.
So, and we usually do that in April. We can do that earlier if you want, if that's helpful. So I think we should come up with a common list of points. I think also we should use the websites, which we don't use that well. So whatever we, forget the Google group, but facts and data, Roger, should be on the fire department, on the website, And I mean, obviously we should understand if that person wants their situation public, but, decide what to say. And I really think you guys should work on a letter, if you haven't sent one out, from, explaining what's happening, explaining how your role is changing, and explaining what it means moving forward. So I'm happy to work with you on
The
that.
guy who puts that all together just went out on.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so I can help,
But having a letter come from the fire
I think it's
department talking about
Yeah.
how it's become a sort of crisis isn't a bad idea. It's just a question of how to get that drafted for you, and I think between Eileen and I, we can probably, if we don't do it ourselves, we can probably, like, if we want it to be in a different voice, so it's not always sounding like I wrote everything, which I don't mind doing, but I'm just saying it's good to have different voices and different tones.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we can probably find someone to help author something that actually comes from the fire company. I realize you guys would wanna have input on that, and I
Well, I have a
would
great
want
idea.
it. I'm just saying it's not a bad idea, because it reaches people differently when it has a different address on it.
Yeah.
Mickey.
Just a minute. I know you had a problem.
Sorry.
Just listening to what's going on here. And I think every month having something said, so it's in everybody's face. So if you write an article for the Monterey News for February, and then again in April, Susan, and then the fire company has this appeal letter go out maybe early in March, and then later in March, have a meeting. Have a meeting at
Library.
the library is a good place for meeting, and just have meeting open that you're gonna talk about this. So that is getting people thinking about it every single month, and then at the finance committee, it's gotta be mentioned.
And I'll write the article tomorrow.
And that would be in April, so there you've got things going on. You can't do it in January because you're gonna get everything together in January, and, so I just think so, every month, something it's in your face, and we'll begin to understand what's happening.
And we can, every time something's published elsewhere, we can put it up on the website too.
Yeah,
just
put it
so, I mean, I don't know if it might be the same people look at both, but it doesn't hurt to put that in places where people can see it.
I'm sorry, I have this issue. I mean, if I think you should figure a little if people want a meeting, but what you might wanna do is have an open house at the fire department. Because there are a lot of people that don't make it to town meeting, they haven't seen the changes, they don't walk in, when they go to the stake roads, they only go in the back. So you might wanna, volunteer to do some tours, of the trucks, explain them, show your knowledge, don't just, answer the budget. I think an open house would be, especially during like maybe one of the February break weeks, when the kids can come, that might really garner a lot of support.
Break week, that's actually a pretty good one. I mean, I know, like, hey, you'll be working during the day anyway.
Yeah, exactly, you'll be on call, you'll be on staff.
Yeah.
But I think, right, you wanna build your constituency in a different way and have them touch it. And just like your kids are on tonight, they wanna see you.
Yep.
you know?
I know.
In uniform, please.
Yeah, uniform. I think,
No, that's.
we can do an art, we can make it very, because you are a community resource and you are available to everyone. And we want them to understand what you do, not how you keep us safe, not only on emergency, but what that presence means. And I think that taking it away from your house is not, I would keep it in there.
I mean, it matters, like, the depth, it's meant a huge amount to me to learn how much you guys know and how much there is to what you do, outside of just responding to an emergency. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much work goes into that. The more they
Permits,
know, the more
everything.
they appreciate the service.
And they wanna see the $1 million in the truck.
2 years, 28 months.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn $1 million.
Do you guys have anything you'd like to offer? No, you're good. Okay.
First thanks, Sean, thanks.
So,
I guess out of tonight, if we could get approval, because like we were discussing, probably mid-January by the time
it all gets done.
we could, I had in there the last line for adding enough, because
Thank
Sean
you.
and I are there on Mondays. Add one more day, so for 2 weeks,
Wait, I'm
just,
confused, what?
The 2 weeks, 1/6 to 120.
yeah. Just the amount
Oh,
of work
this is
that
the
needs to
first
be
two,
done,
the first 2 weeks of,
we could really use 5,
to just get this.
just to
Online.
get this issue. And then the other thing is to, I guess, give us permission to move forward with
So
assembling an advertisement and getting, trying to find people.
Especially the weekend.
The weekend.
The weekends when you, yeah.
And I think that before we go forward with the whole 6 months, we're gonna need to make sure we have all the figures for the additional costs of the workman's comp and all that stuff, so we know what we're talking about with budget. I'm okay making a motion to have them go full time for the 2 weeks to get, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, to get us in shape to make that final push. I'll make a motion to do that.
What, you're paying them,
Full-time wages for 1/6 through 1/20,
okay,
to sort of make sure that everything's in place to go forward with job descriptions, to go forward with hiring the EMTs, to go forward with making sure we have all the numbers correct.
and an onboarding plan and agreement on responsibilities,
Exactly.
all of that, so I think you have 4 things you have to do in those 2 weeks. And
Yeah, we
we're
need to come
all
up with
available
How
to
do
help
you
you.
handle it
Yeah,
in the
so-
short term if you hire an EMT now? Do you have to give them the benefits? Do you have to?
What do you mean, like, just
A per diem, so it's
Okay,
an at-will
okay.
employee.
So it probably wouldn't be the same person
And-
every day, it would be a rotating
On the weekends,
schedule,
right?
just on the two.
Saturday.
Find a group of people to just come in, so they're almost acting like on call. Yes.
And-
Sort of,
Kinda,
sort
yeah.
of.
Sort of like the cost
Basically, you
covering a
create
shift.
a list of
right?
available people when you open up a shift, someone can take it or not take it.
Exactly, like a detail.
Versus
Like
like
a
a,
detail with the
Yeah.
cops.
like versus a part-time would be a set, this
Set
person
hours.
is this day and this person.
Just putting an HR hat on, and you guys, whatever outside stuff you're doing and work, you can, this timeline, you can shut that down and say, I'm really here full time by that, and that's gonna work for you in your personal lives.
With what we've proposed, yeah.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we're not, because
That's just doing
there's gonna be a lot of scrutiny in the beginning, I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
we wanna really show the effort.
That's just the Mondays and Tuesdays, 2 days, full days.
Just Monday, well,
2 days a week,
Yeah,
2 days a
2
week.
instead of 1 day a
a
week,
week,
yes.
16
for
hours.
the first couple of
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah, and I'm just making sure that
Yeah,
that
like
gives you
put
2
together,
weeks is
yeah.
enough to
Because we have.
put your lives in
we already
place to
have
come in,
meetings scheduled on
whatever it is.
Mondays.
Yeah.
I think she's just making sure that 4
Oh,
days.
You're being
is
realistic
sufficient
about what you-
number to
Yeah.
get all our ducks in a row. So, and if it turns out to be 3 weeks, we have, I mean, yeah, whatever.
I just wanna say one other thing, I mean, this is really a new era. We knew we were coming here, and I hope that we can just move forward with, you know, the select board, the finance committee. I haven't spoken to all my committee. We spoke briefly about it, but we're all supporting you. So lean on us. Let us help you. You know, like what you can't do, let us help you with. We all want this to succeed. We want, you know, our fire department to be something that lights the way up here and really spurs the other towns. And we really hope that, you know, you understand how, you know, we really want to support, we are supporting you and how important this is to all of us. And whatever happened in the past is now shut again, and this is the way it's gonna work, that we walk hand in hand.
Thank you.
Is that fair?
It's a good opportunity to build that. So I made a motion, do I have a second?
Second. I second it.
And vote?
Yes.
Yes. So 2 days a week, full-time for the chief and the deputy chief to organize and work with the town administrator and myself to get this ball rolling, to see if we can make this work for the interim period through July, and to also then craft a plan to work towards that 3 years plan going forward. To make sure we have it fleshed out, so we can explain it clearly to everybody and I can't fire up my fingers. Hey, like, if people understand the severity of the situation, they respond more appropriately, usually.
You should.
Hey, human beings, you can't predict them, not really.
I think it's definitely good to get word out, because I actually spoke to somebody today, who's involved in municipal, involved in a committee, a significant committee. And, had no idea really like what was going on. Knew there had been some sort of like struggling issues, but hadn't really heard much of anything that was going on, like how things had happened and what had happened over the past couple of weeks and how much more serious it's gotten. So I definitely think what you proposed is a good thing.
And I
To
think
get
a
that
lot of people
information out.
probably don't know. Some people do, but it just depends on what your info cycle is, right?
Right,
That's right.
and therefore, us all saying the same thing is going to be what makes this work.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
And one of the
Appreciate
big
it.
things is, this isn't to shoot down the volunteers. We're not shooting at the
No, we're gonna
volunteers.
thank
We're-
them.
This is,
Yeah.
We actually
yeah.
need
we
the
need,
volunteers
Yeah.
we
even
need
with
the
this.
on-call
And the
volunteers
open
to
house.
still be part of this also.
Yes.
Because 1 or 3 up there is not enough when you call it, when your house is on fire. Or
Yeah.
you're trapped in a car or something.
And who
like
can
that.
drive the truck? I mean,
No,
that's a
that's right.
big,
Need the volunteers.
yeah,
Or the on-call.
I mean, we could talk about it, but
Yeah.
that day you could say, this is how you drive the truck, this is how many people, this is how, you can actually show them when the bell rings, this is what we do and what. I mean, it will be like, they will all be like, oh my God, I'm like having an inside view, I know what it works, I understand. It would be really good.
Just have to figure out how to get them there, that's all.
Well,
A raffle off something.
Yeah.
like, you grab lunch with the select board.
I bet a ton of people would love it.
But I'm telling you, you have a lot of things. You have, get a picture on the truck, ride. I mean, you could even, Justin can climb that ladder again, do a family picture for them from an aerial view. I don't think it's right for my guys. But you have a lot of things to give away that don't cost you anything. You know what I mean?
I
And
agree.
we
It's
can help
just-
you.
It takes time.
It takes
But
time,
we can help,
organization.
but we're offering, but that's what I'm saying. Now let us help you.
Getting the people to show up is usually a tough thing on an open house for.
But let's
fire
talk
department
about
stuff,
that.
so.
If they don't come, then when we go to the town meeting, we say, we've been trying to show you, this is why. Either way, it's an opportunity for you to understand how bought in they are or they're not, right? It's really an opportunity for you to show why this is important to the town, its history, its legacy, and where it's going in the future. And if people don't come, they're not gonna come to the firehouse, they're definitely not coming to a budget briefing on the fire.
Well,
So.
the other thing is,
You might.
she brings up some good points, because you can always, I've gotten a few quote unquote concerns about the truck, and it's like, well, did you go to the meetings? Did you listen to the meetings? I
Right.
mean, they didn't sit here and dream this up in 15 minutes, they got hundreds of hours into investigating an expensive piece of equipment. It's not taken lightly. And, from my perspective, having the meeting, having the open house says, okay, we explain, I'll help you do it, because, I think when you lay it out and you take it from a logical approach, your options either have it or don't have it. 99.9% would vote to have it.
I have a lot of experience with site visits for electeds, and that's nothing, we're getting elected here for it, so people come. So, I have a lot of experience with that, and if you let us schedule a plan, it won't be a lot of your time, and it's things you already know. We're just gonna tell you how to do it in bite-sized pieces and when, and then we can talk about the flyers and how it goes out, in your voice. So we can do a lot of that, right, for you, and we want to, because we want the town to feel good. So more like come under the tent, Susan, no way.
I know.
Come into the tent, we'll
Thank you,
flow.
Thank you. Take care, Lenny.
Thank you, guys, thank you.
All right, what's up next?
Anything particular, Mickey and Eileen, or otherwise we'll keep moving with our regular agenda? Unless you're here for something very specific.
I'm here for the ice cream.
The director of operations position, we had discussed, because now we know that our director of operations is out till July 1. We put this on the agenda after it got brought up last week.
So I've had a couple of conversations. I spoke with Shannon Howell, who is she works for AOAN, I guess that's how they say it, and they're the workers' comp organization that works through Maya. And she basically said that they try and get reevaluations every couple of months at this point in time. They have a nurse who will be in contact with Jim. But as of that, they will just continue to pay the workers' comp until something gets figured out at that point, which I don't know what that means at the end, what that means. He's okay for, I also talked to Mary Accardi about things like FMLA and health benefits and everything. FMLA is, because he's on workers' comp sort of overrides FMLA. The only reason we would even, which is for 12 weeks, the only reason we would actually declare like FMLA on Jim would be to, so that it doesn't get used in the future. Like say, for example, it's 12 weeks, so let's just say, so like from May, June, so from April, May, June, we did FMLA. What that means is that when he would come back on July 1, he couldn't use FMLA again for the rest of the year, which means that he would be able to go out without pay or with some pay, depends on if he had vacation or sick time. He could continue to take time off. So that was her recommendation. It's whether or not we do it or not, we have to sort of think about it. It's more kind of protecting us a little bit down the road in case he's like, well, I'm still need more time, or I need something, I'm back, but I need to take time off for something else. We can still, and you want to use FMLA, it would have already been used, because you can only use 12 weeks per year.
How much of that 12 is paid?
So the way that it's working is workers' comp is paying 60% of his pay.
Right.
And we cover 40%, which we're paying that through sick time and vacation.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, because he has accrued the dollars, he has accrued the hours.
Right, I understand that,
Yeah.
but then FMLA has its own rules, right? That it's 2 paid weeks, or what is it?
Not really, the FMLA is the federal side, so FMLA doesn't have any payment requirements to it at all.
At all, so it's
It
really,
would be the same thing, he would be paying, if he went out on FMLA, say July 1st, he would have to come up with that pay, because he's not gonna, let's say.
well, that's what I'm saying,
let's
how
say-
much accrued sick and,
Well, he has about 16 pay periods worth of.
and that's because we don't limit it?
Okay,
Well, sorry,
yeah, let's
That's
just
a
stay on focus here.
that is on focus, because it's the numbers, how they work out.
So right now, we're on workers' comp,
Yes,
and we can keep going
Yep.
that course
Yes.
until July 1.
yes, that's when the doctors have recommended he stay out.
As of now,
As of
which
now.
that could change.
And I think what I wanted to make sure of that he just asked is that workers' comp will continue to cover it through that period.
That is my understanding, having talking to Shannon, yes, yeah. But
And they might have their own nurse that reevaluates
Yes.
periodically.
They have a nurse who calls him up and, doesn't necessarily reevaluate him, because that's done through the doctor, but speaks with him, kind of figures out what's going on, and, encourages him to go to the doctor. So maybe more regularly than he would go himself. As opposed to like, hey, it's January 1st, I'm not gonna go back and see the doctor until the middle of June.
Right.
So, because the doctor said I'm supposed to be out.
So as far as I understand it, that's basically taken care of. There's a choice that Mary raised to you that we
Mhm.
could
Yes.
do something a little different with the Family Medical Leave Act.
Mhm.
But that's basically covered. What do we do while he's gone, which we, as of now, know is at least 6 more months?
Yeah.
Unless something drastically changes, it's gonna be at least 6 months. What do we do? Do we try to,
Well, we talked about last week, we talked about hiring the woman from New Marlboro on a temporary basis.
Mhm.
And that we'd be like, quote unquote, saying, hey, we got a crisis here, we got chapter 90 money, we need to help Pete plan out the year, how does chapter 90 money get used that way? Making sure the invoices are getting done, the CDL stuff, certifications are all, the check and balances are all getting done. So that's what we talked a little bit about last week, that's what I would be a proponent of.
Mhm.
I also, when I was looking through the notes from last week, today, I got so caught up in the holidays and the land vacation, I never reached out to her yet.
That's fine, you might not have gotten hold of it.
Yeah.
But-
But it would be good to do.
Well, I think we need to go forward, I'm doing the invoices now, it's not that much, it's the chapter 90, and really trying to lay out, there's a lot of things that are done during the summer, and they haven't given Pete the support. Okay, Pete, some guidance from Jim, we, do X in this month, and, how do we get it done? You get a calendar up and say, okay, we're gonna do this, and then is there enough people there to do it? I don't know the staffing.
That was the next question
that you
I had.
can, you may have to dial it back, because it's 6 months, well, what you can do. But I think the important thing, like I said last week, we gotta hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And that would be, if Jim's not coming back, that we give him the support to Pete so he can, keep things going, see if he, develops or whatever. I was in there, I went and saw the group the other morning, and I told him if he needed any support, we're here to help him, not to feel like a lone ranger. I'm sure he'll get slammed with snow and ice and stuff like that, they know what to do. But, so I think, if you could reach out to them, and then I guess,
Reach out to
to
the
the one.
highway manager, yeah.
And then maybe, because we have the budget coming up.
So I'm planning on meeting with Jim and Pete sometime the first couple weeks of January.
So here's the only question I think Frank raised last week. Can we be asking someone who's out on work or come do
I'm
anything?
telling you, I think you're playing with a live issue.
Yeah,
Private sector
I
would
think-
work.
I think I wanna
Because
have
you're working
this-
me, and then you're saying, well, you're only giving me 60% of my time.
Can you talk to
Yeah,
Donna and Mary Carty and just,
because my
we just don't wanna
You can
do anything.
If you wanna do that, you could always encourage them to say, can we do it over a phone? You get Pete in here,
Yeah.
we'll call you at home. You could set up a Zoom meeting so he doesn't necessarily have to come in. I would, in my professional experience, was you gotta be very careful.
But my concern
And
with
limit the length of the meeting.
But my concern moving forward isn't necessarily the day-to-day administrative. That, with your help, with the person from Marlboro, that I think we can deal with. I don't wanna say easily, but we can deal with it.
Okay,
It's really those projects that have been planned that, were road projects, that were bridge projects, or that were culvert projects, or things like that, were sitting there to be planned for the summer
No,
and to continue forward. You know, like I was talking to Pete today, it's like, well, you know, I live on Hoopie Road, so I go down Hoopie Road every day, and I'm like, so how do we deal with the pothole that's in the road? You know, what does that mean moving forward for the next
we put
season?
gravel in your trunk on your.
Yeah, I just shovel it out,
Um,
the sand, and moving forward, that's my concern.
Well,
That's
I know,
one
but we
idea.
need to, I don't know Pete well enough. I mean, he's always been receptive, he responds really well, he's approachable. You know, my general, I haven't spent a lot.
Yeah.
Is sitting in a room and just talking about it,
Yeah.
okay? Not trying to bite off too much, and
Yeah.
he has to say, no, I can't do that, and we have to listen to him.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I wanna at least have an idea.
But, yeah,
from
but,
Jim,
in the next year, they're supposed to start on Curtis Road Bridge there.
Yeah, I think
So
that's years.
there's one thing that can be done, which is that sometimes we have a choice of leaning a little bit more into BRPC or the engineers or the state to do some more of the project administration.
Yeah.
That came up with the Route 23 culvert. It's coming up even with the dam that's a little bit broken
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
Brewer Pond. They said, do you want to oversee the work? Do you have someone who will oversee the work, or do you want us to do it? So it costs a little bit more money, but it probably makes sense with some of these projects, if we have the choice, to rely on some of the outside organizations to do the
And
supervision.
I would just like to know what the list of the projects are.
Well,
And that's really what I would like to know.
there was a list somewhere, and that might be in some of the budget sheets that,
I think that Jim might have come up with
Jim has the list.
But that would be, I mean, and I think that if someone is out on extended sick leave, I think it's worth asking the appropriate authorities, but asking that person if they're not completely incapacitated to produce that existing list. So
Well,
that
I don't have,
choices can be made.
I don't
so
have
it's
that.
totally- No, I know, I completely understand your concern, I'm just thinking through the problem and
Okay.
thinking like, especially if the list existed already, even if it needed a couple of annotations, and he can take his time to do it, that seems like a reasonable ask that would make a big difference to the town going forward.
we need to ask them sooner, because it may have an impact on some of the budgets.
Because
Because I said, doing the invoices, you see like
Mhm.
the stone half full.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
And there are purchases that need to be planned and need to be made before the season comes, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. So knowing what the critical projects are, making decisions about which one we'll proceed with, and I just also would like to hear, like, they're down a person. How's that, is it working okay?
Anecdotally, yes, because I think, they've only had 5 people for the past couple of years.
Yeah, probably.
And the 5th person is Jim, not the first, but the fifth person, if you look at Jim, was doing, I think, more of that administrative stuff, but also kind of a working director. So they seem to be doing okay, only because we haven't really had significant snowfall, but they have been dealing with a lot of this rain and ice and stuff, so
Yeah.
they seem to be keeping up with it as far as I can tell.
They-
How many hours a week does Sheldon work at the transfer
He
station?
works 1 day a week there,
Sundays then?
Sundays.
Yeah.
So moving forward, I'm gonna reach out to New Marlboro, or the woman from New Marlboro, about those 6 hours a week for 6 months. And maybe Susan or Frank could join the meeting,
I could join it.
with Jim and Pete and Roger.
Why don't you let me do that, because I've been doing the invoices.
Yeah, you have a better command of what's going on there.
Yeah, it's interesting to do them. I mean,
Yeah.
And I
you
think
learn a lot.
that can be kind of the starting point for what other changes would we need to make moving forward, if any,
Yeah.
to kind of accommodate the.
I think there's a good group of people there. I don't want them to get discouraged, because Jim is good about coming here and going back and letting them know, but if he's not here, we gotta make sure that we're covering all the bases for them.
Yeah.
We have a solid group, so I don't want to.
And we want them to feel supported.
Right, and we don't want
It's
to.
gotta affect their morale too, to have to.
Eileen Marcus.
Thank you. So this is going back to the issue Justin said, don't open can of worms, but I think it might be new business. But we do need to look I looked at the payroll policy, we do need to talk about accrued vacation and payout, because we budget on an annual year, so it's working for us, because we only pay 40% of the salary based on the 60% of the disability. But if Jim left and we had to pay all that out, we would be in a huge budget hole. So I'd really like to know how else that situation exists for other people, and what the accrued vacation and use it or lose it policy is.
Well, Susan's
We have-
working on it
Oh, you are?
as we speak. To some,
And I think that, we did already set a limit to the accrued vacation previously.
well,
I didn't
and
think we were gonna
previously,
alter that.
did we do that in the last couple of years? Cause I
Yeah, we
know
did.
I can't find a policy on
it
it, is
used
what
to
I'm saying.
be, the official policy was,
It's in the employee.
there could
manual.
be no vacation carryover. But every year the select board would approve
A
everyone,
handful.
everyone's vacation.
Okay, that's helpful, I didn't know that, that's why I'm
So-
asking.
And frankly, it was not people with 10 weeks that were just building them up over time. It was usually people with at most 10 days, and they said something like, I'm going on vacation in August for 8
Right,
days, and I
and
have
if it
10
has to,
days.
but this is 4 months of vacation.
No, it's not, because it's 60-40 split, right?
It's
And
mostly
sick time. and-
Right, but you said he has, but it's sick
I
time,
mean,
sick time is accrued too.
I think
Just
it's a
look at
very
it.
good question,
Yeah.
Just
and I
look at
think
it.
it's worth
Yeah,
digging
sure.
into outside of a meeting.
I agree, that's why I'm raising it, exactly.
Okay, I think that's it, I think
So,
that's
all
a
right,
good
all
place.
right, yeah, we know what we have to do.
I will reach out to Laura, and that basically settles the administrative assistant question as well. I think we could double check the numbers, but I don't even think we really need to. We could go out for a 14-hour-a-week position that was budgeted the whole year for the administrative assistant. We could go out and post that as well if we want. We basically talked about that last week.
Yeah, actually, yeah, we did.
So why don't we do that, because you're already posting so many other jobs.
I'm retiring.
I know.
Well, but you are posting a community center job,
I do,
and
yeah.
another thing
Yeah.
that makes sense, and it's coming back to me, is that if we're posting one, sometimes it attracts candidates
Yes.
that might even if they don't get the one job, might be good for the other job. So I think we should go ahead and try to look for that 14-hour-a-week position as originally planned, and we'll go ahead and reach out to more, right?
And you, and this language, I can look at the job description, just make sure there's language that differentiates the pay rates. Okay. The pay scales.
Donation to council on aging?
Yes. That's very simple, we just need to accept a donation to the council on
It
aging.
is from Donald and Erica Stern, $150 to the Council on Aging.
I will move we accept the very generous donation from the Stearns to the Council on Aging.
I second the motion.
We'll call vote?
Yes.
Yes, unanimously accepted, thank you to the Stearns. So Roger brought this up last week, and we got a few emails about it a few weeks ago. I just wanna get back to Mike. I told Mike Jermaine in person, I think it was in person,
Yeah, I think we
but
were.
my opinion on the ice rink is we have so many projects that we're overseeing right now that cost a lot of money. It is not kind of an off year for increased spending. And if there are people who really wanna donate and buy a new ice rink, then we need some more details, and we need all the money, but short of that, without a plan, we can't be accepting donations
I
without a
don't
plan.
think, I helped with some of the ice rink and I heard some of the conversations, I just think that, we have to be careful there. We don't want to set the precedent to do it.
Yeah.
And doing, I appreciate their love for hockey, but I mean, getting a rink and then powering it for ice.
Well, I also have a concern, I think that pavilion, from what I understand from the fire chief, that pavilion is reaching the end of its lifetime.
Mm.
And if all of those plans depend on that pavilion being in usable state, that may be a serious impediment to the success of that project.
That's a
even a
good
few
point.
years down.
I can get back to Mike and say, without a plan and with concerns about the pavilion, we're really not in a place to be planning an ice rink at the pavilion at this time.
I agree with what you just stated.
They almost need a Friends, like the Friends of the Monterey Ice Rink.
Yeah,
To raise
then in 5 years, they could be in the budget too.
Like the Friends of the Monterey Library.
Mickey,
I was just gonna say, it's not just the ice rink and what the rink is gonna cost, it's going to cost money going forward, operations, and it
Sure.
changes the whole complexity of the thing. It just really has to be a full plan, not just a dream. And I can raise the money, yes, you can raise the money for that. I can tell you could raise that money probably quickly,
It's in the hundreds of thousands.
convince a couple of people, I don't know if my skaters have money, but whatever. But just, I think you have to have a real plan before you start saying, yes, we can accept donations for that.
yeah, Eileen,
This was an item on the town meeting agenda. I would suggest reviewing those minutes and the promise you made to Mike to go
we
forward.
didn't make any promise.
You did, you made a promise
Did
that
we make
that
a
he
promise?
could explore it, it passed. He made some kind of thing on the floor,
Yeah,
that passed, that
but
he could
there was
explore.
nothing binding.
And you
Justin,
could
all I'm
explore
trying to say is it would behoove you to look at those minutes and the comments made to make sure that you're addressing all of them so they don't come back and bite you. Because in my recollection from what Mike left with was, oh, I'm gonna be able to get this into the budget next year. And I know that's not what we said, and I'm saying this but I really would look at those minutes. Because I made exactly Mickey's point at the meeting, and that's the points we're making, so I would look at them.
I think we're also in a very different situation now
I agree,
than we even were then.
but that's why I say, look at what was said and what was passed, and
We need a plan.
Yeah.
We need a plan about.
But he will come up with a
initial costs
plan by the budget.
And start,
Is what I'm trying to tell you.
and operational costs.
Operational costs, that's the big point.
It becomes an interesting place doing it up at the pavilion anyway, because
Wait.
it becomes a mixture of public and private.
I
So
was
even,
just
so
gonna-
even though we're saying it's gonna take a lot of electricity, well, it's a private building.
I have heard of
Yeah, I know.
flooding and to doing a little bit differently out on the ball field, and maybe something like that is the next rink. If the pavilion's, future is uncertain, maybe it's more of a, or
An
even
active
that
one.
basketball court is, maybe it would wreck it because of all the water, but that's nice and flat. Maybe I will encourage Mike to explore those ideas that might be more of an outdoor rink style than a indoor.
Covered
fully-
rink,
Maybe you wanna make it under the purview of the Parks Department and have them involved to see what the lands are and what could be used and get,
We would get them involved if it involved.
Yeah, no, I
the
think,
ball field.
I think that, I'm blanking on his name, Tom Menzies,
Menzies.
the way he goes about things, it might be might be a good mind on this to bring.
Well, I'll get back to Mike, addressing those concerns, and we take it. We'd love to have an ice rink, we just need a plan.
Well,
Right.
but I think not only is Roger right, but my understanding is there's a lot of people from out of town that use that. It's used more out of town than this, so there's liability issues and.
The only thing is that in the last few years, we're lucky if we get a week out of it.
That's the other issue.
Not that many people have been
Well,
using it
that's why
because
you get the compressor to freeze it.
temperatures are different than with the
Yeah,
weather. What is it today, 50 degrees?
Yeah, well, it-
Okay, moving on, we have town administrator updates.
The only, big one, well, I have a couple, one of them is, and I forwarded the email, is the Conservation Commission agent has given her
Oh,
notice,
sure.
so.
Did she say
Noel?
why?
Noel?
Not.
No,
No,
Kim.
Kim
Kim Legault.
Um,
Not really, I mean, she basically said positive things about working with the Conservation Commission, and she enjoyed her time
Mhm.
here, and that was it. So there wasn't really anything negative about what was going on,
Okay.
so.
You
So,
better buy a whole page in the Shopper's Guide.
So what that, just going back to the previous article, what it actually says in the minutes is,
Thank you.
to citizen petition, to see if the town supports the refrigeration of the ice rink at the firehouse pavilion. If so, we'll explore funding through grants, private contributions, and town matching in kind support.
Town matching.
And it passed 51-15. The only thing I can say is, the concept is fine, but the reality, like, what we're saying is, we're only willing to go forward if there's a very clear plan for how this would work, complete with a budget not only for the equipment to do it initially, but operational costs and whether it makes sense to do that at the pavilion, if the pavilion's
Yes,
expected
but that's
life
what,
is
that's
not.
what, right,
Well,
it's just
how
town
that is-
matching.
That's private property.
And
They
the
need to go
public-private
talk
part
to
of
the
it, so
fire
there needs
company.
to be a plan and it needs to account for all those issues, and without that, I don't think we would go forward with it, or anyone would. Like, those are all things that need to be explored, but there may be solutions to them, maybe he'll come
Yeah, I
up with
just wanted to make
solutions,
sure
so I'm
we
not
knew what
ruling it
it
out,
said.
but yeah, I don't think we're denying any promise that was made.
So Roger, just getting back to the Concom agent, so in the past, it's been the opinion of the select board that the commission is responsible for hiring the agent. So the select board doesn't even vote on it.
Right.
That being said, it's probably the best place to start is a conversation with the chair about posting the job. It was done not that long ago, unfortunately. Just like,
I think I saw it listed in the Indeed account.
so posting the job, and we have a couple of weeks here. She gave a couple of weeks where she's still gonna.
Is it an easy position to fill?
No, it's not, because
You have to
when,
have some kind of certification.
the last time that she left, we had kind of a little bit of a revolving door.
Mhm.
There are people who do it. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
So it's about finding someone who is able to do it, who's willing to come out here for a few hours a week.
Mhm.
And our budget has improved
Oh, yeah.
since the last few times we did it,
Yeah, I
so
remember we left them, yeah.
that's a positive, but some of the other towns around here don't have an agent, as Monterey didn't until,
3 years ago, right?
no, it was more than 3 years ago, but maybe 5 to 10.
Yeah.
So,
I'm thinking that counts on it.
so,
She came on after we were already in construction, I think, on the library.
uh-huh. So, and other towns are still not there yet, where they don't have an agent, so there's not a whole lot of them around, but there are a few, and our best bet is probably someone who works in another town
Yeah,
as the agent and will come down to Monterey, so. I guess it's just a matter of getting that posted, and then whether Noelle wants to interview herself or with it, at this point, they're up to 6 members, so easily 2 members could interview without any open meeting law concern. And if they want to involve you too, that's good.
I'll reach
But
out.
at the end of the day, it's really their agent.
Yeah.
And then do you wanna talk about the community center up here?
Yep, I do have, I've received 4 resumes from.
Oh, really?
From that, I put it on Indeed last Friday, I think it was, Thursday, I forget when it was. And over the weekend, I had 3, and today, just a couple hours ago, I had a 4th one. I've passed all of them on to Lori. Lori has asked that we see what happens in the next couple days, see if we get a few more, and then look at those, and then move
Give it
forward
at
with
least
that.
a week before you start, yeah.
Yeah, and then
That's
see
good
what comes
news.
in.
Yeah, it really is.
I hadn't had a chance to even put it in the shopper's guide yet, so I was gonna give them a call and figure out how that is,
that's good.
and then move forward with that, so. Go from there.
Including a Monterey resident.
Including a
Oh,
Monterey.
really?
yeah,
That's good
Monterey
news.
resident, yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, might be-
that's good, and I think if we can get the administrative assistant up there as well,
Mhm.
sometimes those positions draw out some of the same people.
So that's that, and I don't know if it's just something to put on a future agenda, is, I don't know how it worked, I know we had one once in the past, was a housing committee, just to talk about it, or affordable committee, only because the Berkshire Eagle is full of ADUs, tiny homes, and now the real estate tax exemption that's become a big thing that was passed into law back in 2023, where the rental unit of a house can be, there's a formula to make it, as long as it's affordable housing, there's a formula that can be used to actually reduce the rent and offset the rent with the tax exemption. So it was in the Berkshire Eagle, people are talking about it. So I don't know I don't know how you guys are, it's just,
So
I just wanted to toss it out there just as a conversation, just to sort of.
I know there have been affordable housing committees in the past, and if there's interest, I'm open to appointing an ad hoc committee. I also know the planning board,
Right,
which,
Yeah.
whose mission aligns very closely with the affordable housing committee, is already up and running and meeting twice a month and duly elected and official and,
Yeah, I
um,
wasn't certain how that worked.
is somewhat, last I knew, willing to kind of take on the role of it, so. Do we wanna go with do we want to place the onus of all this work on the planning board, and are they willing to take it on? Or do we want to go through the work of making an affordable housing committee, which will take a couple of months just to put it out there, get applications, appoint people, get them sworn in and whatnot. And then they have to have their first meeting, elect a chair.
Come up.
Is it worth it? Come up to speed on the
Issues.
technical rules and regulations, of which the planning board is already familiar with some of them. I think it's probably worth, I'll reach out to, Tom and Laura. Why don't we start there? I'll reach out to Tom and Laura and ask them where their head is at, because if they say convincingly, we're capable of doing this and we wanna take this on and we're able to, or if they say, we really would appreciate the help and it's beyond our volunteer capacity, that could just point us in the right direction to begin with.
That seems like a good plan.
And this is another place where Berkshire Regional Planning might have some resources, you can volunteer or look it up.
Well, that's part of the reason why planning board makes so much sense is BRPC,
Yeah.
they have worked so closely
I
with
agree,
BRPC over the last many years doing
Yeah.
the master plan
And doing the recent housing report.
and the housing
Yeah.
report. So
Yeah.
they have a very, when
I think
people come forward and say, we want affordable housing, we just wanna make a committee, in some ways, the planning board knows the rules and regulations and has those relationships where
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense, and it might make more sense for them to be, and they've done some of it in the past, but encouraging people to come to their meetings and talk about it.
And
In that open-
if the planning board wanted to make an ad hoc committee, they could.
Yeah.
Like, if there were people that wanted
Mhm.
to pursue it and become expert in it while participating in planning board, they could do that.
Yeah, I'm planning on going to the one on the 23rd, so there's a meeting on the 23rd, so I was gonna go to that one.
The planning board.
Planning board, yeah, just to sort of say,
Mhm.
like I said, it seems to be everywhere now.
Yeah,
Every time
it's
you
a
open
big deal.
Google, Yeah.
I just wanna go back to the Concom agent for 1 minute.
Mhm.
I think it might be useful to reach out to Noelle and see if she wants help with this, but, finding out what other towns do have agents and whether any of them would be willing to take on a few hours a week for us might be a really good step, and Noelle may already know, but she may also say, I don't have time to find out, I don't know. Is that something you think?
Yeah, I
we
can
should-
find out, yeah, I know there was, somebody in Beckett, who, I think it was Beckett, may have had some interest, but.
Right,
Yeah, I'll look out, see
Okay.
Sue's out there for those just around us here.
obviously a full-time
Um,
person probably can't.
Sorry.
Just because I had a question and I was gonna wait till later, but talking about this affordable housing, are you referring to the money that the state has put aside or for certain towns, which we were one of them,
Yeah, that was part of, that was the seasonal communities.
seasonal community,
Yeah,
yeah.
so no, that was just, it's a whole different program.
And there's another, because there were two programs and I didn't, I just heard the one briefly and I didn't remember what it was, but there were two that we were eligible for, and we were mentioned as, this 6 towns or that's 8 towns.
It was,
We
there
were
was
one
an
of, yeah,
ADU.
seasonal community, I said sick at home, but
Yeah,
seasonal.
so there was seasonal communities, which we just got the designation for in the past month, but then there was
Yeah. There were
the
two that
change-
just came up,
the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit requirements, that was also something,
Okay,
but
yeah.
that's.
but
that's for
there was
everyone.
another thing,
Everyone.
it wasn't just the seasonal community, but there was another one where Monterey was mentioned, and I just heard it once, so it didn't sink in, I can tell you things at least 3 times. didn't I? Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that one was, because I know that the only ones I'm aware of are the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit, which is applicable to all communities
Yeah,
across the
but
state.
this was another one that was just applicable to a certain number of towns, and I think the one was the seasonal, and that was either 6 or 8 towns, and the other one was the same number, smaller number of towns
Yeah,
in Berkshire County that were eligible for funds. If you can find out what that was, I
I don't know
don't, you know,
what, I don't know what the fund was, I do know that one of the things that got mentioned was, I just lost it, the issue of tiny houses
Yeah, tiny
was
houses.
also in the part, not just ADUs, but tiny houses, it's actually separate.
That's part of the seasonal communities.
that's part of the seasonal.
Yeah,
But it
the
was,
tiny
there were
homes.
two different times I heard it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, there was another one, I thought there was another one other than the seasonal community.
There is some complicated also with the governor's economic development bill about the ADUs and how we charge rent or don't charge rent, especially when 2 people own homes. So we had some policy conversations on them. I started a think piece on it because that also plays into this. Remember that, I had the conversation with Susan and we talked about it at the finance committee about these concepts of if you own 2 homes and how are you claiming them
Separate
and
tax, that's
and the
one of
business
things that-
district and the
yeah.
taxes, that also we really need to look into. Because I'm aware myself of like 4 people that own 2 homes now.
There's a lot more than.
And there's a lot, but I'm saying personally, like that, so like how are we paying taxes? Are they renting it? Aren't they? Are they renting to friends? So we have to really, unfortunately, and we know that people are doing Airbnbs that are businesses and they are not zoned for business if you're purely doing it as an Airbnb. So we have a lot of issues to look in on this stuff to see what's in our purview, what's not.
I don't know if this was a thing that you maybe read about, but part of the seasonal community things, they also raise the issue of you can have 2 tax rates.
Yeah, that's the one
Property
I like.
tax rates.
There it is.
So that for
That might be
for
really good.
seasonal homeowners, for people who are second homeowners, I guess I should say, who have their primary residence elsewhere, you can actually choose to have 2 tax rates, one for primary residence and one for secondary residence.
If it's a second home, they pay more.
Yes.
Yes,
Well,
that's correct.
and Roger is actually collecting some data on usage during summer, tonnage, calls, months, to look at the stress on the system. Because, this town, really, it is not just a 20% increase, it's a 50% increase, of the amount of people.
Well, doesn't that show that the people who are here as second home only go to the dump 2 or 3 months a year instead of 12?
Correct, but
So they use
that's-
it a heck of a lot less.
Yes, but that's not the data. The data is that when they use it, the stress on the system because of our staffing pattern, it creates other problems. Obviously, they use it less, and we've always seen it as a kind of subsidy, but what we're finding now is that might not exactly be the case. It might be that, some of these stressors we have, like the fire department, like some of the problems with the dump and the whatever the thing is called, is because in those high volume times, we get into problems.
So
Otherwise,
you gotta build a highway for your maximum capacity.
Yeah.
You build it for average capacity.
That's
run
what
into
we,
problems. I
so
think
it
that's
is an
what the
operational,
concept is.
it is an operational issue.
Whether or not we're actually now to the point where the
Seasonal is no
seasonal
longer.
Right,
actually.
my favorite issue, the
overwhelming
beach monitor,
capacity of
right?
the town to respond.
Just-
I'm not sure that that's the case,
Yeah.
but it is a
But we wanna
question to
explore-
ask, just.
But we wanna
the
see if
answer
it is.
Happily no.
Right, like the parking at the beach, there are a lot of stresses on the system that cost the town more money instead of subsidizing it.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, so
We
we're
don't
not
have to get into it, but that's.
it's
just
all
makes
good,
sense.
I think all good, questions to raise,
Yeah, think
and
of it.
we're gonna look into whether we're gonna make an affordable housing committee separate from the planning board, as a starting point.
And we
Is there
might,
any,
we might wanna just consider what we wanna call it, housing committee or affordable housing committee.
yeah,
Because affordable housing committee has certain specific things that it
Yeah.
refers to that we might wanna make it broader than that.
is there any unanticipated business?
No.
Susan or Frank?
No, and I didn't see any minutes come in.
No, just December 10th from last week.
I think, didn't we already do this like that?
No, I sent them last week, but we didn't approve.
Oh,
them.
great.
I don't think,
Because they came like at noon.
Yeah.
They came like at 5 o'clock or something like
Yeah.
that. 4:30.
they're so late they were early.
Yeah.
You think it's not too much?
Right down the city and looking for it.
Wow, it's almost time for a new folder.
She started with, I found one for $30. It's cute, right? Wow. It is nice. Can see me coming. I don't have to worry about,
Thanks,
Yes.
ladies, for joining
Thank you.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah, good
Sorry if I
meeting you.
made it long, but we're on the same page, so it's good, and I can report back to my committee. A one-off record, did you do anything for the staff for the Christmas, the holiday?
Nope.
So,
I have plans.
okay, good. And if you need, I was thinking Valentine's, just even send them all, right? Because I just wanted to make sure you're doing that, good. I worry about those things, what?
I said Merry Christmas and New Year's and Happy New Year's.
Are we off the,
No.
We're not, we still got work to do.
oh, you still got work to leave?
We gotta talk about the finance committee now.
Yeah, you gotta find a candidate, people, it's getting coming up. You gotta find a candidate, thank you, everybody, have a good night.
Bye.
You still on the minutes?
Yeah,
That's fine with them.
yeah, we're just on minutes. And then I do wanna talk about our meeting schedule going forward. No more Monday meetings.
Yeah, no kidding.
They are so bad for minutes because
Yeah,
I try to not do much town stuff on Sunday. And then
all of a sudden.
the only way I get minutes done is waking up early to do minutes. Who doesn't love waking up early on a Monday morning to do minutes?
Minutes. That's like that homework that needed to be done for the first class. It's like, what? Oh, no.
I did, it was just,
Monday morning.
it was, cause, they gave me some more, we don't have Wednesday, so I'll finish them up, I think, in the morning. Not that many. I'm starting to get the hang of it.
It's still about, 20 or so.
Yeah, well, I did 12, there's 20 there, and then you're gonna be a light week this week compared to the others. But they seem to be more on time this time.
You want me to pull it up
You're
too?
always on.
You want a hard copy?
Page,
I screwed up one thing, it should have said, believe it or not, the cap locked on the fucking keyboard when I was doing this. They deleted what I had.
Is there, do you have a comment on the minutes?
I
It
do.
said a discussion in the second paragraph, or under there was. I don't know.
There
I
was
said-
discussion.
Yeah,
There was a discussion.
discussion,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll add that in.
Yeah.
That's on the first page.
page 3, the
Page 3.
first paragraph.
Yeah.
Susan asked if part-time employees should get paid time off in addition to sick time. I think what we talked about is making it, instead of calling it sick time, changing the name of it to
Yeah.
paid time off, so they could take it either as sick time or
Yeah.
other. So it's not in addition. It's it says Susan in the 5th line down
Okay,
on page
Susan
3.
asked if part-time employees should get paid time off in addition to sick time.
Right, but it's not in addition to.
So if part-time employees can take
If we
Sick
should,
time
yeah, if we should,
as,
as paid time
as
off.
general paid time
Right,
off.
or we should transition from calling the, part-time, Susan asked if the town should rename sick time to paid time off so that employees could, use that time as they see fit.
Because one thing that part-timers don't get vacation.
Right.
That's
So this is how I have it, Susan, and you can just say it.
Go ahead.
Susan asked if part-time employees should transition the current sick time to general paid time off so that employees can use that time as they see fit. Frank agreed. that they
Except
should.
it's not the employees that are transitioning, it's the town is.
Yeah.
Changing the name of it,
Okay.
Yeah.
right?
If the town,
Should
Should transition.
rename part-time, rename the category of sick time, help.
Susan asked if the town should rename the current sick time
For part-time
for
employees
part-time employees
to paid time off,
to, can I say to general paid time off? Just
to general
Yeah.
paid time off
so that employees can use it.
as they see fit.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
I guess budget, what's?
Are we done on the minutes?
I'm done with
I'm
that.
sorry, I'm
No, we're not.
still not quite.
Make use of my time, Roger. Budget schedules?
I have to set those up. It'll probably be, I have to start setting those up for the week of, I guess, next week is what I'm
That's
supposed
what
to
I
do.
was wondering.
And the week after that, because
Okay.
some of them have like the, DPW fire, are pretty big. So I sent those out towards the end of last week and kind of gave them until the 10th to return them.
Well, on the budgets, like, under the fire department, they don't have like the code for telecommunication. He's putting that
Yep.
under a general. Do we wanna add that, or?
It's something we could certainly do if it worked out for them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are the little things I've noticed
Yep.
on the invoices. It
Yep.
just makes sense. I'll make a list for you so you know.
Yeah,
It's not many.
yeah, there's a few departments who put things just into expenses.
Yeah,
For just, as opposed to having something separated out.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I talked with the finance committee about having those ready for the 9th and 10th, but I might have to push it off one extra week.
I
Do like
gotta be
the
away.
week of the 13th.
I gotta be away. The doctor's in DC at the end of the month. So
I'm trying to do it right in the middle of
there.
So that's where that is with that. I've received some smaller budgets. I've gotten a couple back here and there from people. So kind of go through them.
Do you have more comments?
No, that was it.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of December 10th as amended.
Second,
Any other things? We'll call a vote.
Yes.
yes.
And yes, so those are approved, thank you. So I do want to touch base, I guess, a little bit about the budget too. So you sent out forms for people to fill out.
I've sent out spreadsheets
Okay.
for them to look at. Those spreadsheets that I did a few weeks back, and basically just did like a demonstration of them. Yep, and then I've received some of them back.
And you request them back January 10th?
I requested them back actually January 3rd.
Okay.
So, but a couple of them, a couple of the bigger ones, I pushed out an extra week because I was still trying to figure them out. And I actually, Susan, might need your help on the transfer station.
Okay.
Because it's really, I'm a little stuck on where the numbers are that were from the previous year and how that was figured out.
I was gonna talk to you tomorrow. One of the things that we definitely need to do is, the previous town administrator kept records of the monthly totals.
Yeah.
Both the cost and the tonnage.
Yeah.
And I think going through the back things and getting all that data and updating that spreadsheet would be
I'll have
really
to find
helpful
that
for
and
the
see what
process
that
of
is.
coming up with numbers.
If you want me to fill in the numbers, I'll do that.
I'll have to find the
Did-
sheets and stuff.
Did we sign a contract with Roger Trucking, but weren't the second and third years, there was an asterisk that he could raise the prices as he saw fit?
It's 10% every year.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, so we're in the second year of that, so it went up to just 10%, it's gonna go up another 10% on the hauling side
Yeah.
of things. Yeah, on the hauling side.
But we pay,
And
if we ever looked at buying our own, dump,
we have
We
one,
talked
we're
about it.
supposed to, I have to go back and look, but I think I have to go back and look at my notes, but we were supposed to do a contract with Roger Trucking for one of the compactors.
yeah, but we lease all those dumpsters.
But,
Yes,
I think down a director of operations is kind of hard to
Yeah.
do the analysis now.
yeah.
I'm not,
I mean, I can do the
But I
analysis.
believe
I can
we're
do the
already
analysis,
paying on that.
it's question
I
when
don't
you wanna
know.
pull the trigger.
I believe that we're
I
paying.
don't, we're paying on it, but I don't think there's I didn't do a
I
contract on it.
believe there is. I believe that we worked out an agreement where we're leasing to own this thing.
I'll have to double
Well,
check
it's a
on
big
that.
lease payment.
Well, he was gonna do the same lease, the payment that we pay for it right now, which is $750 a month or something.
But I believe
Well,
we
I think
agreed
all
that
of
we
it's
would do that
1750.
and
Yeah,
that was a done deal.
yeah,
So that we're partway through paying for it.
I'll have to double check on that.
But yeah. I can't remember.
I do remember talking
I
about
remember
that.
talking about
It
it.
really should be on file as a contract.
Yep.
I hope it is, if it's not,
I do
if it's
too.
word of mouth.
No, I
That was a
believe that we
contract.
signed something, but I
Yeah.
don't remember when it was.
Oh, well, were you here?
I remember.
Wait, you were here, so it's gotta be online.
I don't,
What was,
I remember talking
give me
about it,
some keywords,
but
compactor.
I
Yeah,
don't, I
compactor
don't
would be
think
one.
it ever,
Lease payment to.
Well, I can
Roger
tell, if you
Tipping.
wanna know the number, go get the invoices, I put the invoice in.
I
the
think
back.
it was 750.
No, I think it dropped.
It
Is
was,
is it in that, can I get in your office?
Yeah, I think it was 1,750.
That's what it is, a
That's what it
month.
is a month.
Well, that's what it is a month, yeah.
Each one is broken down, it's just,
Yeah,
it's just for one of those.
Right,
But I can't
But
remember.
there's like 5 of them.
it's for the one with the it's for the compactor itself.
Yeah. I don't think we ever ended up with a
Actually
contract,
finally, you know.
but I will, I'll double check.
Yeah, we should really kind of push back on any kind of fuel prices have been on the lower scale.
Yay, but yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
also,
I don't know what's happening with tip.
Donna, so
Well,
next week, are we
Waste
meeting next
management?
week? I'm sorry.
No, as far, I don't know, like, does a contract pass through the tip fees to us? No, the tip fee is a set tip fee and
So-
he eats the changes.
No, I think that increases too. I have to go back and look at,
Okay.
I was just
Right, I
looking
think
at, I was
they
just
both
looking at the
increase, but
contract for
separately.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's the haul fee, cause there's the hauling fee to, Springfield.
Great,
And
Springfield.
then there's the hauling fee plus the price per ton for, bulk and municipal solid waste. That is, I believe that's part of that 10% increase as well. But I was just looking at that contract, just the other day.
I would 100% have sworn that the agreement included our leasing that to own it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember it was a whole issue and a long discussion, so,
Talked about it.
yeah. I think that happened before you were here, didn't it? When did we sign the original 3-year
The
contract?
Roger contract?
It was a year, we're on the second year right now,
Right, so it was before you started,
the contract was.
and I believe that happened
I'll look and
pretty close
see
to
it.
when the original contract was signed. Are we doing dates?
Yeah, I mean, just really the next meeting, I think we're probably gonna meet next week.
Next
We have the
week.
town administrator evaluation.
Mhm.
We don't have a lot else, but we do have a couple of items that we're working on.
Okay.
Unless anyone feels strongly about, meeting in 2 weeks from now.
I mean, I can do next week.
I can meet next
Let's
week, and I
meet
think there's
next
something
week,
to be said for
Yeah, and I think with the
giving us
budget
a date
coming
to
up,
get things done,
get
yeah.
some of the, make sure they're caught up on stuff.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn the
Second.
meeting.
We'll call vote,
Yeah.
Yes.
and yes. It's a unanimous vote to adjourn the meeting.
I'm gonna have to go find that.
Time is
Okay.
7:52 PM.